Tell me about this season of Fringe and what is going down.
Every time you think it's going here, it goes there and then goes over here, and then you think, okay, so we're going there, and then it's like, no, now we're here and now we're back there. The writing is thrilling. It's what I find extraordinary is that the writers can work on so many levels. Fringe is character-driven. However, there are huge supernatural aspects, plain old science, fringe science aspects. You've got so many stunts, so many special effects, that it's a complicated and interesting journey, and how they keep managing to keep that and hold this story together. Because obviously the relationship with Peter and Walter has gone through a lot of changes from the other side, and you have what's happening with Peter and Olivia and Peter and Bolivia. So you've got the romance there. You've got this whole father-son thing there. Then you've got Broyles and myself in the weird world of the FBI, Homeland Security, and Massive Dynamics.
So when we start the season, Bolivia is Olivia, and no one knows what's happening. And then tell me about sort of the journey between the two different worlds and how they sort of overlap with one another, and where we end up now.
Yeah. We're not done. And I always wonder, this is a question I've never asked the writers, is there another one? Is there a third world or a fourth or a fifth? I mean, how many dimensions are there? Is that what we look forward to in season 4, 5, and 6? Are yet more universes? Massive Dynamic, the government, we're all on the same side. Remember, we go back to the first seasons. We were really in a kind of cat and mouse game. What do you know? What do I know? What am I doing with that information? What are you? So we've lost some of that now because we're on the same side. But I would suspect that has never gone to sleep. That's just been working in another way. The future of the universe is at stake now on Fringe, so it's very curious to see how we'll find that, because of course they want this story to go on and on, so it won't be resolved at the end of this year. We know that.
Right. So and tell me about Peter and sort of his ups and downs this season in terms of his relationship with Olivia. Where did they start and where are they now?
Yeah. Well, Peter and Olivia are getting closer. We know that now, but whether that stays that way, I think, is improbable. So I'm looking forward to finding out what it is that sets them apart from each other, because they're clearly getting very, very close now. But this isn't a story about happiness, so that can't last. We know this. There's going to be something complex that enters into this. We don't know yet what it is. Is Nina even human? We know I have a bionic arm, a Templar inside, but I'm not sure there aren't other bits that perhaps are. I think it's a really rich topic. I mean, one hesitates to say, but it has serious spiritual, let alone metaphysical aspects to it in a popular form of entertainment.
So what makes Fringe a type of show that a new audience member can come in the third season and pick up? Or is it, do they need to go back and do a little research and homework? How does that work?
I think the interesting thing about a show like Fringe is that you can start at any time. Clearly, if you've been with it from the beginning, things have much more meaning. But the shows are standalones in that they're very entertaining. You see really interesting relationships and some bizarre, some amazing effects, some stunts that you can get hooked right away. And then you go back and you look at the DVDs and you can track it. You can. I know I've discovered many shows that way. I didn't know about Lost until the end of the second season. I didn't know about Breaking Bad until the end of the second season. There was another one I found the other day after 3 seasons. So I think people's lives are so different now that it's fun to come upon something. If you're intrigued by the people, you kind of go, right, they're there, and then you have your own marathon or wait till there is a marathon. I think that's actually really the fun of television now, that you can get this long form experience. And I think that's the way you just start.
And also, I was going to say, I was on set recently with you, and you were shadowing an episode. So tell me a little bit about what's going on for you behind the scenes.
Yeah, I made a trip to California and said, you know what, I would really like to try directing this. I've directed before in my own television series, which was a film series, and I've directed in theater in New York. But I think the first year I was so dazzled, intimidated by the hardware of this show. I was like, how do you get a character to float right by? How do you have an explosion that goes through the heavens? And I thought, I started to watch more in that second year and thought, I can do this. So I shadowed Brad Anderson on the last, who was a wonderful filmmaker in his own right. And we actually had a character that floats, and you went, oh, day by day. you know, the effects guys, the stunt coordinators go, right, you have this kind of choice, you have wires, you have this. You're able to kind of go step by step through it. And I thought the acting part, directing the actors, the story part, I knew I was fine to do that. I was more about the other. And it's been a wonderful experience, and it's very humbling to look at. It's daunting, very exciting, scary in the best possible ways. So I'm hoping for a 4th season, and that Bad Robot and Fox and Warriors will say yes.
That'd be fantastic to see you directing an episode.
Also, you know, for better, for worse, there are just not many women that direct in television. Some shows have a stable of women directors, but it's not nearly as rich and varied as movies, when in fact, some of the best writing is in television. So it's kind of surprising. So we need to sort of get the girls coming through. Yeah, that's the plan. I've been shadowing Brad Anderson on this last episode, and then I'll shadow 2 more directors, Joe Chappelle and Jenner Swark, so that we have season 4. It's time for some women to get in here and direct this very boy show that's heavy on hardware.
But what will be sort of, do you think, one of the biggest surprises this season for Fringe?
There's a very big surprise coming towards the end of the season in the other world with Bolivia that I think will blow people's minds, and it's going to have ramifications, surprise, in this world and, you know, its world and our world. That's for sure. And then there's a show coming up that changes form. It's not the Fringe form. It's as mind-blowing as the singing show, the 40s show last year.
Thank you so much.
And that isn't even the end. God knows what they have in store for that. Right? They've come up with another kind of mind-blowing idea for a show. And you kind of go, really? We're going to do that? We're going to do that in 8 days? We are. Yeah. So we basically make a sort of slightly less than an hour feature every 8 days, which is 9 days, which is insane. Because I know that Jeff Pinkner and Joel Wyman have a plan for us. They have a plan for 8 years, and we want to be here for all that time. They've got something going. So I actually like being surprised. And of course, Nina's character is always about what cards is she holding. And I love that we still don't really know if she's a force for good or evil, and that they're keeping that to themselves. Mm-hmm. So. In terms of Nina, that's what that arc is, but I know there's some very interesting stuff coming along.
So how long before you shoot do you actually get the script?
Sometimes you'll get an outline, maybe a week before, and maybe a studio draft, but we're getting rewrites the entire time we shoot. They are constantly, you know, honing this and fine-tuning this. Some because we've asked questions or made requests, and otherwise they just look. Certainly the director has as well. And then also they just keep looking at it and they make it as lean as possible, because we are so story-heavy, right? Just in terms of all these relationships, let alone the guest star and the problem of that particular episode, that these scripts come in long and we shoot long, so they've constantly got to keep making smaller, but far better that than having just a little story that you have to keep sort of puffing up. All happy families are alike. You know, it's kind of like, okay, we're all happy. Yeah. End of show, it seems to me. Yeah, you've got to have conflict, you know, and you have to have conflict. What I love about this show is you have conflict within characters. Walter and Peter and Olivia have very deep, you know, deep conflicts within themselves in this world and in the other world. And then you have it on a macro level, a huge level of, you know, once again, we've kind of let, for this last while, Massive Dynamic seems to be a force for good, and Massive Dynamic and the FBI and Homeland Security all seem on the same side because we have that over there. But I don't imagine that will always stay true, and I don't imagine it's even as harmonious as we think. For Nina, that she is the mother of both Peter and Olivia.
Hello.
That they're brother and sister. Hello. No, I don't know.
You get some girl power. Now let's talk about the art of that, because when I look at both realms, I see acting as listening, directing as seeing. How does that change? And
they have at the end of pre-production a thing they call the tone meeting, which is the people in California. You sit in a room, there's the big screen, there they are, here the writers are there. And then you have representatives of the various departments, the director, the AD. And they really then talk the show through beat by beat. What's really at stake in this scene? In the small way, what's at stake right now, and then also how this connects to episode 312, and remember what happened in 209. This is the kind of payoff for that. So I was actually hugely impressed by the complexity of it. I thought I knew that, but it was like bigger even than I thought, and the care that went into that. And actors, I think a lot of times we show up in the set and kind of go, well, you know, why is that there? Like, And you think, oh, actually, that's really been thought through, you know. And if it hasn't, then people are like, oh, right, yeah, no, we shouldn't have that piece of furniture there, or we shouldn't have that object there, because that tells us something we don't know or don't need to know. Yeah. So it's, I love looking at it from two different points of view. It is quite different. And I think it makes me better as an actor, coming in and really thinking more that way. See, I don't watch my own work as an actor. I don't have any interest in it. I never do. And I don't have any interest in it. And when we're watching the show, I just walk out of the room and come back. It's not my favorite thing. I never do what I want to do. I just hate the way I look. And this is, you know, when I was 20, I hated it, let alone when I'm 60.
It hasn't changed.
Yeah, it hasn't changed at all. As J.J. Abrams had said to me, my first movie was with William Hurt. It was called Altered States. And it's about altered states of consciousness. And the posters we originally had for Olivia, where she's hanging up and down, was an homage. That was our poster. So he said when he was a young man, he saw this. It was written by Patty Chayefsky, so it was very word dominant. He looked, he thought, wow, you have a leading character in a piece of popular entertainment that's really talking about the nature of the universe, about metaphysics, about what is reality, about what's the point of life. If you can do that while you're doing something really entertaining, that's what he wanted to do. I love a lot of my black clothes. I'll be taking all the Issey Miyake, just so the producers know I'm taking the Miyake. That's right.
I don't know why I always see something there, like a special connection with Walter.
Right. The connection between Walter and Nina is getting much more complex. And fun in many ways, you know, very funny, instead of being always like, Walter, are you okay? Walter, Walter and I smoked a joint recently together, right? Really? Okay, that's interesting. It's very curious for Nina. It's very curious.